Okay, I'm putting this video together in order to give some help to students who find it difficult calculating an unknown concentration from given values from a titration experiment. Here's the sort of question that I had in mind, so I'm just going to share with you. Okay, so if we have a look at this, we can see some of the key points on the question. So we've got a student who carries out a titration, and what they have to do is to work out an unknown concentration. We've got a known concentration of sodium hydroxide of 0.0998, and we've got two known volumes of nitric acid and sodium hydroxide. Okay, so let's have a go at answering the question. Okay, let's swap my screen around. Okay, so some key things that I do when I'm working out these answers are, first thing we're going to do is we are going to identify, let's put that down a bit, we're going to put the we're going to write out the balanced symbol equation. Okay. Up. Okay. That's the first thing we're going to look at. Number two, we need the equation for moles. And third, we're going to write out our grid. Okay. So let's have a go at doing those now. Let's try and get this into focus. Okay, right. So first things first, the balanced symbol equation. Now we were given this in the question, so we're going to write that out. Let's do it. Let's divide this like this, and we'll write it out here. So we got nitric acid, HNO3, and we're reacting it with sodium hydroxide, NaOH. And we can see that we're making sodium nitrate and water. Okay, let's change the camera a little bit so that we can see the whole screen. Okay, there we are. Now we can see that it's balanced because we've got one sodium on the left, one on the right. We've got 4 oxygens in total on the left, 4 oxygens on the right, 2 hydrogens on the right, and 2 on the left, so it's balanced. So we've got a ratio of moles of 1 to 1. The ratio between the acid and the sodium hydroxide is 1 to 1. Okay, now, so we've written out the equation. Next is to write out the equation for moles. So I would do this in triangle like this. And moles is equal to concentration times volume. But remember to divide the volume by 1000 to convert centimeters cubed into decimeters cubed. Okay, centimeters cubed to decimeters cubed. Right, equation done. Next job is to write out a grid. So for me, I would do moles, concentration, and volume. And we're looking for a grid here. And so we're done. Now, with that filled in, let's go back and have a look at the exam question. Okay, so here we are. So we can see we've got the equation written out just like we've done, but we've got 3 pieces of information that we can put inside our grid now. We've got the concentration here of the sodium hydroxide. We've got the volume of nitric acid, and we've got the volume of the sodium hydroxide. Okay, and so we can now hopefully work out the concentration of the, well, we can work out the concentration of the acid. So let's have a go at doing that. So we're back here. Let's transfer some of that information. Okay, so the first thing we can do is to transfer the concentration of the sodium hydroxide from the question. And it's 0.0998. And we're also told the volume of the sodium hydroxide was 25 centimeters cubed. Remember to divide it by 1,000 to convert to decimeters cubed, and so we get an answer of 0.025. Let's do the same for the acid. The acid volume was 21.8 centimeters cubed. Let's divide it by 1,000, and we get an answer of 0.0218. So now we've got 3 pieces of information. We've got the concentration of the sodium hydroxide, we've got the volume of the sodium hydroxide, and we've got the volume of the acid. Now it's a simple step of completing the rest of the table. Using the equation here, we can see that moles is equal to concentration times volume. So we can calculate the moles of sodium hydroxide. Because the ratio between the sodium hydroxide and the acid is 1:1, we can also work out the moles of the acid. And then again, using the equation here, we can work out the concentration of the acid. Okay, so let's have a go at doing that. So number 1, first of all, moles is equal to concentration times volume. So that's going to be 0.0998 times 0.025. And if we put that into our calculator, we get an answer of 0.002495. Now you may get that in standard form. So you may get an answer of 2.495 times 10 to the minus 3. But if you move the decimal point back 3 places, you can write it out in long like this. So I'm going to put that in here. Some questions might ask you to round up or to put it to a certain number of significant figures as this one has, but we'll do that when we come to the concentration. So we've now got the moles of the sodium hydroxide. Now, because the ratio is 1:1 between the sodium hydroxide and the acid, we also know that the number of moles of acid must be the same as this. So we can transfer that number over here. And now we're in a position to work out 3. If we look at our triangle here and put our finger over the concentration, we see that concentration is equal to moles divided by volume. So to work out 3, concentration is equal to moles divided by volume. So we can simply put 0.002495 divided by the volume in decimeters, 0.0218. And if we put that into our calculator, we get an answer of 0.1144. Now, the question asks for asked us to give that to 3 significant figures. Let's just go back and just show that. Okay, so if you look at the bottom here, we're expected to give it to 3 significant figures. Okay, so if we stop sharing again, go back to here. If we round this to 3 significant figures, we get 0.114. So we can put that in here, 0.114. And now we're done. So in terms of marking this, the first thing we would have to have done is to work out the moles of the sodium hydroxide. So we just scored 1 mark for that. Then the moles of the acid, so 1 mark for that. Then the concentration of the acid, 1 mark for that. And then the concentration of the acid rounded to 3 significant figures. So 1 mark for that. So overall, it's given us a score of 4 out of 4. Okay, well, hopefully you'll find that useful. And remember 3 key things when you're presented with questions like this. Write out the balance symbol equation. Write out the equation for moles like this in the triangle. And then construct your grid like this. And put the known information into your grid. And only then attempt to answer the question, because your hard work is then done for you. Okay, thank you. Thank you for listening.